Oh, good. Let's see. So, what memories do any of you have about the Century Ballroom? Go ahead.
I worked there. My cousins, Dick and Carol Zegan, were kind of managing that. So, and Bill Flaherty and I used to work there, and we'd go there on Saturday, Friday night or Saturday, and clean up the place for the Saturday night's dances. And first of all, I parked cars. You'd get the roller started. Then you went in behind and worked behind the mixer bar. It was a bottle club. Bring your own bottle in. You had to pay to get in, but it was the mixer bar. You sold cups, ice, and a mixer called a setup for 75 cents. And then you went and bought that, and then you got paid. We got $7.50 a shift, and that was, you were paid in a 50-cent wrapper with your name and $7.50 on it. But that was in the early 50s.
Anybody else headed to the Century
I
Ballroom?
want you to work.
Just remember there's a Fuji 10-cent store in there.
Yeah.
Aaron's
We are.
Yeah.
IGA.
We know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other stores?
Well, I just wondering for two things here, but if I may, I put together, I got some information from no fireman, I put this, but anyway, about the Century Ballroom. Built in 1934, the Century Ballroom attracted thousands of people who came to listen to the dance of some of the most famous big bands in the country. The 11,000 square foot dance floor was one of the largest in the state. With the shift to rock and roll, the complex was transformed to accommodate business in 1956. Only the dome would serve as a reminder of earlier days when it probably stood to the north of the Poodle Dog. That's a picture.
And you,
I'm gonna give this
you
to-
were on the fire. Were you on the fire in the fire department right
Yes.
when it burned? Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
We're gonna do it.
I was upstairs with Fritz Bourne when he
Yeah.
just about.
Died.
Chris
I mean-
almost got it, yeah.
You know, you're wondering, you know, that fire started real lightly in a corner wall, and it went up. And once it hit, I was up there. Within 2 minutes, that whole upstairs, it was unbelievable.
Mr. Pesci?
I can remember as a little boy riding my bicycle up there, because that building had big windows in it, and they'd open the windows to let it kind of cool off inside at night. And I listened to Count Basie, Louis Satchmo Armstrong, the Glenn Miller Band. Those are the kind of people that came and played at that venue. And for a young kid, like 9, 10, 11 years old, it was just the greatest thing in the world.
So, do any of you remember walkathons at the Century? The dance-a-thons?
I heard about them, but now you're getting back before us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mrs. Passanetti was in the previous group. She remembered the walkathons.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
dance-a-thons. They were torture.
Yeah.
They were torture. I mean, we're gonna do the Century Ballroom in the barn in November. So he's already gonna work the
Let's
mixer
work
bar.
into the fire department. Fife's had some pretty notable fires.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
We can't.
Carl, you were a
have
big
our-
member of the fire
Well,
department.
brother
You and
too,
Al,
brother.
Well,
You know, I like.
I'll pay you $7.50.
You know, I might as well let everybody know Brother Al here. He's got the brains. I know I do a lot more talking, but you know, as far as we have to say, born and raised in Fife and Fife School District, it's unbelievable how close our family, because of our wonderful ties all through life, and especially having a mother that lived to be just about 105. The growing up couldn't have been any better, I don't think, for us, and I think most of us, because of the upbringing in a small farming community.
Thanks.
So, as far as the fire department, I joined in '51 as soon as I got out of high school. I happened to be working also when I got 16. The owner of the old Valley Forge with Frank Spear and Maury Robbins. Frank was a neighbor on Blue Road. There was, you know, the length of the Blue Road was from one end to the other. It was only 13 houses, which probably was over a half a mile. But anyway, I joined the fire department as soon as I started at the dairy when I graduated in '51, and then the fire department, they used to bring the trucks in, and here they seen a young able-bodied man, and they needed more bodies, and most of the guys that started the Fife as a volunteer in '49 were older men. I got it. And as far as fires, yeah, we've had. Go ahead, Al. You. I joined
we never lost the
51,
basement.
and I was able to when Joe Imhoff, Bill Slump, Jack Murray, Tony Rosley. I happened to have to take care of the home front when they all went to the service. I took care of everything that they left behind, and and when I did such a good job when they got out of the service, I enlisted all 5 to join the fire department, and really because it was such a wonderful when it was all volunteer. It was unbelievable the common or the good times that we had and what we did for the community. So I know Al and Tony Rosley, Joe Imhoff, Bill, they all stayed on 25 years. And we did get a small pension by putting in 25 years. But as far as the fires, we had, I think this book, when I turn it over to the Historical Society, will give a lot of the fires, but I think Duffel Bag, Valley Forge, the Rexall,
Rexall.
and then the motel up there.
Daffodil.
Daffodil Motel. That was the interesting one because we were having our firemen's doing that night, and that was probably. The open attic was went all the way around.
Had no
200 feet.
No fire stops.
No fire stops, and you know, we got to remember back in them days, everything was water tankers, and we had a lot of help. But when I don't care, you can have 200 firemen on a thing, but if you don't have the water, but it was. Well, thinking back, there was a lot of, we had a lot of bad fires, but we saved a lot too. You only always hear about the ones that...
Yeah.
Raves department store.
Yeah, Raves.
1956, September 3rd.
Good memory.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we were growing up down on Blue Road, a couple houses burned. There was no fire department.
Fife
Houses
wrecks
just
all
went
there.
down to the ground. That's what you do. Yeah.
My parents lived in Old Fife when they were first married, and there's a drugstore down there right across from Oakwood Dairy. They rented an apartment upstairs, and it got fire and burned down, and that's when the interurban was running through. It had to be, well, my sister was born in 1930, she was alive. She was born in, and somebody from the interurban threw a rock through the window that woke them. And they grabbed her and ran out, and they lost everything they had. But that's with a Fife fire too that goes back a ways.
Yeah, that's before our time. Yeah.
So you had the store, Andre's store. What other stores were around?
That's it.
That was a complete market, no?
Hardware, everything.
Hardware,
Yeah,
meat department, everything.
So the
Thing I remember about that place had black floors.
yes.
The what?
Yeah.
Black floors.
Yeah.
Wood with black floors.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was wood, but it was black. Yeah.
Yeah. And we angled parked in off of old 99.
Yeah.
We angled parked into
Right.
the front. Yeah.
And
See,
I
it's not
think,
so different today, we still don't have a store.
yeah.
They're better off back then.
So you mentioned the Fuji's 10 cent, the IGA,
No.
Kepka's.
Kepka's.
Yeah, to corner grocery.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because Bert Kepka was on the fire department too.
Yes.
Because he'd be one of the first ones to go over to the fire station to drive the truck after to get a call. 'Cause-
I remember the duffel bag fire because I was at the station myself. You know, we had, part of our job was different firemen at junction every month. It was your duty to go check out to see if everything was tip-top going. And the call came in and it was by phone. And then you push a button and the siren went off and here was myself. But I knew Bert was over there and I can remember pulling out of the station with the old first Ford pumper we had. It was a 500 gallon. I got a picture here if you want to look of all the original it was a 500 gallon pumper with 500 gallons
Of water.
That meant you could pump 500 gallons if you had a suction hose into the thing. But I remember I could see the black smoke and coming up and my foot on the thing. I stopped at the intersection to pick up Bert kept them down through the duffel bag fire. And then we were trying to draft out of the ditch right there. It was a big ditch but I mean, it was a total loss of that building. We saved the other one though. But.
All right, so let's see, the drive-in. Did y'all enjoy the drive-in, the Fife drive-in?
Oh, why are you chuckling over there?
Mr. Medler?
No, I remember the drive-in. I remember some of the gals was lucky enough to date and go to the drive-in.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Were you a
And
good boy?
That was the days of some of the guys that didn't have too much money. Well, they went to they got into the trunk right before you got there. And as soon as you got in and
Sure.
got the back
Yeah.
door, jumped out of the trunk and then watched the movie. That was some of the memories.
So the drive-in was first, Pickwick that was then built after the
No,
drive-in?
Pickwick was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first group thought it was the other way around.
Yeah.
So Pickwick was there
Yeah.
first.
We used to go
That makes
at the
sense.
Century down and get something to eat at Pickwick and bring it back to the.
So do you remember who owned it then?
Yes,
Olson.
Olson.
Sure.
The first, pardon?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Princeton was
Sure.
saying.
No, that's afterwards. There was a lot of, Olson, because we knew that was back in the early 50s.
Yeah.
And I went, when we got off work, or sometime, it was just, they didn't do much business to begin with. It was, I just remember we'd take I guess we were maybe 21 if there's somebody, we'd take a 6-pack of beer down there after Mr. Olson was cleaning up. And man, we could make, that was Joe Imhoff, would have been probably, because they were out of the Navy, that would have been in 55, 56 in them years. I remember going down there after we closed at 8 or whenever we went down there, and for beer we had hamburgers and hot dogs. We had to make it on our own, but he was the first owner, and you're right, there's been quite a few different owners, but now Bergies and Imhoffs had 18 years together. Now Joey, I think, is going on something like 28 years.
Yeah, there was a few of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, little Marty's, I remember the Marty's.
Yeah,
and
the
Swiss
shore.
guys, yeah.
Mhm.
And the Dairy Deluxe.
Detrays?
Dairy
No,
Curly
Dairy Deluxe.
and more.
Dairy
than that.
Deluxe.
Yeah, you know
Yeah,
more about-
Curly started that.
Yeah.
That had to be what, 50, I don't even know, 4 or 5 maybe?
Well, that was right next to the White Spot
Next to
Tavern.
the
Yeah,
White
White
Spot
Spot Tavern,
Next,
yeah.
next
And
to
the
it.
go-kart track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where there was a go-kart
That
track
had
back
to be
behind there
probably-
when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah.
60s, early 60s?
No, 50.
No.
Wait,
Had to
wait,
be
Before, I worked there in about 1955 and 6,
Okay.
so it was prior to that, probably 54.
Yeah, it was pretty
officially-
early.
It could be,
Yeah,
yeah.
myself and Kenny Selmers worked at that place.
Wow. I don't-
Warren Medak, Curly DeTrey were the two co-owners.
Yeah.
They bought all their products from you guys.
Mhm.
The special mix that they did
Ice
with
cream
the
mix,
soft
yeah.
ice cream.
Golly, yeah, that had to be in the early 50s, I
Yeah,
think.
I remember Curly's sister actually kind of run the place
Donna,
for a while,
yeah.
Donna.
All right, what about?
I can't remember the go-kart track. Where was?
We know where what turned into the Executive Inn. There just used to be a little flat track back there that
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much it was ever used. Before, what was it? It was the Golden Rule Motel, right? That was on 58th? Or was it?
William Tell?
That was next, yeah. that
Well, the
was
William Tell was on
William
58th
Tell.
and the Golden Rule was down
Down
there
at
at
the
the
corner.
corner.
His little pig.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
It was
William
for-
Tell.
that Golden Rule is Forsland's.
Yeah.
Yep, yes.
yeah. And then, it was.
Yeah.
I spent the first year of my life at the William Tell Motel while
Yeah.
my parents were building a house.
Yeah.
All right, doctors and dentists. Who did you see in the area, if anybody, or did your parents just do all the work for you?
Dr.
I went to Dr. Kelso for
Or
dentist.
or-
Yeah.
Dr.
He was
Kelso.
down on 54th, And then
Was
our
when did
doctor,
Stockton-
Sokoski, he was at the Fife, then where the drugstore is.
Mhm.
He was upstairs. And so we were,
Yeah, that was like Brother Al said, Dr. Prosa, because the first time I ever went to a dentist in my life was actually when I became 18, when the Supreme Dairy went to work. They had good insurance, and Dr. Prosa was on 54.
When did Doc Scott go in with Perosa?
Oh, that was probably 8-10 years later, and then Dr. Kalkus was in
down right on
54th
Valley Avenue
or
there.
Valley.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Dr. West?
West.
Yeah, he come after Dr. Calcus, I think.
Yeah.
And then he was above the Rexall drug for a while.
Yeah.
Right, and then he moved over
To-
to the end down where the IGA was when they built that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Perry Ryder, you guys
Oh,
remember
yeah.
Perry
Sure.
Ryder? He was a jack of all trades, and
Yeah, when I, go ahead.
He's kind of the history of Fife, old Perry. He knew everything that
Yeah.
was going on.
yeah.
He was an interesting fella.
No, Perry was involved in everything. He was fire commissioner. He, when I bought property in the 54, he did everything. He was an insurance salesman. I know, like my mother, where I went down to Milton Avenue or 20th Street, and when somebody broke a window, he put it in himself. But he was quite a man. He would do everything. He was, and all the fishing trips that he organized for the Lions to go down to Frank Snyder at Westport. But and he was a very you couldn't beat him as far as for the community, what he did in every way. I mean,
Remember, he used to lived on that little road where Schuler Dairy was?
Yeah.
Right there, down at the end of it was a Giladushi's greenhouse.
yeah, and then afterward he become your neighbor
Right,
over
yeah,
there.
16th.
Yeah. Then he moved
next to
down.
the Laviolas.
Yeah.
But he was a jack of all trades, and he would do anything for anybody. He was probably one of the.
Another funny thing, two of my dad's brothers got killed on Old 99 within a block of each other. One got killed by, I think, a car hit him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was catching a bus on a Sunday. Both of them
Yeah.
died on a Sunday afternoon. Two
Yeah.
of my dad's brothers.
yeah.
Giladushi's used to have
Greenhouse.
pathway,
Yeah.
greenhouse there right off of 99. That was a shortcut when you went from Blue Road over to, not Godow, but because you went over to Frank Schuler, the family lived on that little road. You
Yeah,
remember?
there's a little road. I
Then you
forget what
come-
the name of that
then you
road
can
is.
cut right at where Schuler's lived, right, a pathway right to 99.
Yeah, I remember the greenhouse there. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And then the other brother got killed at the Poodle Dog intersection. Somebody ran a light and killed him.
yeah.
So,
Still happens today.
Well, the building of the interstate affected each of you in one way or another. So, Mr. Medler, how did that change Fife for you?
I think the interstate went through in 62.
Yeah,
Is that about right?
63 is when. the
63, I
cars-
think it opened
yeah.
from Tacoma
That's
to
when the
Spanish
cars
Castle.
could go on.
Not much. I was married then and moved to Federal Way,
Okay.
so.
But you could get to Federal Way a lot faster.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember driving it when it first went
99?
in? Yeah, no.
Or near the freeway?
I-5, yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
Mr. Fishman, how did it affect you?
I
Took up some
just-
dairy space, but
just
that
took
was
up
Oakwood.
just a part of life. I can remember when the I-5 was being built down on 54th Avenue between 20th and Highway 99. There was a watchman there, and he always had a 55-gallon drum with fire in it to keep warm. And the Ukes were hauling gravel from up at that lower Milton somewhere up in Milton down and filling in the valley. And the Ukes had the right of way. When they come down, he would stop the cars and they would go through. And I was in high school then, and to us kids in school, it was just part of seeing the farmland getting filled in, the pastures going away, and it was just, you think about it now, and you look at the traffic on 54th and think they'd stop the traffic and let these guys through, just unheard of. But it was just part of the times of growing up that it affected.
Mhm.
the way it affected us, it wasn't that big a deal, I guess.
Carl?
Well, I think it really tore the, you know, originally when I went to kindergarten, there was really 3 languages spoke. Italian, Japanese, and Swiss German. That poor kindergarten Miss Meyer had a tough time. And you know, as a freeway, it started killing all of these dairies, so it really disbanded all of our friends as far as Japanese and Italian and Swiss that move either out of the area or you lose contact. And I think it was the biggest, to me, it just killed Fife as a small community, and your best friends dispersed them to different areas.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
So I'm hearing right that you think that the freeway cut Fife in half, right, first of all?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was like the end of the school being the center of the community, and you all, you know, in the beginning, I felt like the school was a community. The doors were open all the time. You did stuff there and you did stuff at home, but you weren't wandering the streets like kids today.
Well,
But the-
you could wander the streets back then and not be fearful of anything either.
Yeah, that's
You could
true.
go anywhere, a bike, walk. You-
Yeah, you didn't. You weren't afraid.
No, if you were late for dinner, you cut hell, not because something had happened, because you weren't there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to lock doors, you didn't have
No.
to worry about thievery. And, you know, just like fire department and all them other things, when expanded, the volunteerism in the community was gone. I mean, we used to be all volunteer fire department, that was when it was the best. When you started, because of the increase of the freeway going through, it was the beginning of the end of a lot of the real good activities that went on in Fife.
Well, that was inevitable, though. Once the
Yeah.
freeway went through,
Yes.
that was just one part of the puzzle. I mean, everything used to be separated. Between Fife and Federal Way, there was nothing, or Fife and Tacoma.
No.
Yeah.
And now it's all just filled in.
Yeah.
So,
Just like everywhere.
Yep.
Was the freeway the end of Colonial Gardens?
Yes.
Mhm.
That kind of ended that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
They disbanded
Oh, yeah.
shortly thereafter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had all the property to 99, you know, all along there, all the way down, and went right through,
Right through the middle.
well, kind of through the middle, and
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the guys, some of the farmers might have kept land, but I know Frank Dacca always says that was the end. It was
Yeah.
bitter. They were bitter. Still are.
Because right across the street here, Adolph Miller worked for the dairy,
A little farm there.
Oh,
little
Miller,
farm
yeah.
here, it was cows and,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think if you really go street by street and count up the dairy farmers that was in the greater Fife area that produced milk and shipped to different dairies, it would be Darigold, Metasweet, Flet, whoever, there'd be an awful big number. I mean, the dairies that delivered is pretty well set in stone who could do that, but there was a large number of dairy farmer producers throughout the area.
Yeah, Mizu just did a map of all the Japanese, just the Japanese dairies in this area. It was amazing.